That was cool. Okay, I think Piotr is ready. All right,
Hi,
let's make
everyone.
sure his microphone is ready as well. Okay, that sounds great. So, Piotr, give it up for Piotr. He is our first step to prepare everyone here to be great builders in the age of AI. And I'm really looking forward to this. And I should probably listen to this myself very carefully. All right. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, happy birthday, EJS. Congratulations on the 15th anniversary. Um, congrats, really big stuff. So today I'm going to talk to you about this evolution from engineer to product builder. Please raise hands. How many of you have built something that you didn't think was worth building? Right? A story of my life. Luckily enough, right now you have big chance of doing something about it. And it's never been easier, it's never been more relevant, and it's never been more lucrative to you all. And the fun thing is, it all starts with engineers. I assume most of us are engineers here, so if you're asking yourself, what this AI is going to do with us, I think we're actually good. So who am I? My name is Piotr. I've been working with code and teams that deal with code for 25 years right now. So I started when I was 15, actually, commercially. Here are some of the companies you may know me from. This is a safe space, right? So I can ask the question, how many of you nerds have played Witcher and Cyberpunk? Raise your hands. That's my people. I love you. So I've been part of the Witcher 3 journey as an engineer and later head of engineering inside GOG. I've been a CTO at Displate, and we run a newsletter and a cohort course called AI Product Heroes. Anyway, you're not here to look at logos. 41%. 41% of code is AI generated. That's a number from, I think, a GitHub report and Stack Overflow report last year. 21% of Y Combinator startup, which is a big VC company, have 95% of code written by AI. That's huge. And building gets cheaper every quarter. Probably you know this guy, Boris Cherny. He's the head of cloud code from Anthropic. And he said that coding is practically solved today. That's an interesting take. It's definitely easier for people to get in. But engineering is so much more than coding, so I'm not afraid of us losing the jobs. And I've been in the industry long enough to hear you're going to lose your job this time a couple of times. So I'm not afraid. Right now, it's not like you have to find a son of your mother's friend to build your website. Your mother can build you a website. They can vibe code a website. Or here, your grandma can. So something is definitely up. Like the building has been more accessible to everyone. So the role of engineers, in my opinion, is getting redefined. And it's not something new. Like for 25 years of me building software, we had a couple of these shifts. First of all, like back in the days, we were just engineers. There wasn't like big specializations. You were a engineer or webmaster, so to speak. So you had to talk to the customer, like do the design in Photoshop back then, etc., etc. Then specializations come. Front-end engineers, then React engineers, and right now it's getting shaken as well. So it's not the first time. But like I said, I'm not afraid. and I don't think you should be. But you can do a couple of things to bulletproof yourself if you want. Because if we look at what AI does to coding and building products, besides writing code faster, the question is, are we building better? Let's look at companies who use AI to build products. How many of you like working with Jira? One person. And Jira actually uses quite a bit of AI, and this is the simplified version of it. Yeah, talking about products built with AI. That's a toothbrush that has AI inside. So it's fucking nonsense, man. Like, and we come through the companies and see how they're building products with AI. Most of the products still shit, still slow. So it's not like AI is going to replace us anytime soon. But coding is easier and more accessible to everyone. So something doesn't add up here. Something's off. So if AI lets you build faster, but if you're building the wrong thing, then you're still building shit, but it's beautiful, fast shit, yeah? At scale. So I want to put your attention to what may be important in this area for us to come. And I think you're well equipped to deal with that. So let's think together. If building gets cheaper, then what's the most important thing in the AI area when it comes to building products? And there is an asterisk there because I don't believe this is applicable just to AI area. I think it was something that was very much important in the previous era. And that's this. It's knowing what to build, not just how to build it, but knowing what to build. And figuring out what to build is a process called discovery. And this is a big thing, I believe, because this is what separates good companies and good teams from average teams. And it looks like this. First of all, you have to talk to the customers. How many of you, like, you don't need to raise hands, it's enough with that, but ask yourself this: how many of you talk to customers and then decide on whether this is worth building or not? Or is it your CEO just storms into a room and says, I have an idea, let's build this shit, yeah? Second of all, once you know the data and you talk to the customers, then you formulate hypothesis. Hypothesis is, I believe that based on what you said, if we do X, then we might come with Y, and we will measure this by this metric. That's hypothesis. And a hypothesis can be true or not true. So we need to test it. And previously, we just gave it to the engineering teams. And it took us, I don't know, 2 sprints, 4 sprints to deliver something, and then we figured out, okay, that's not something that users want. So we just lost 4 weeks or 2 months of talented people's time building this. So testing hypothesis, we use very cheap methods like prototype, like smoke test, etc., to test it. And then if it turns out, okay, users actually want it, then we build the actual solution. Then you guys shine here. Then we, as an engineer, go do the scalable things, the DDD, BDD, whatever DD we have in our store. And then we iterate. And that's the cycle. How many of you work this way? few hands. That's the reality. But that's how you build good products. And there are 4 problems with that process. And this isn't a new process. Just I didn't come up with this. First of all, most of the companies don't use this process at all. Like you just raised hands, and there was a couple of hands doing this. So if picking up what to build becomes the new big thing, most of the companies still aren't equipped to that. So you're the first ones that can actually evangelize, this, and it makes just common sense. Second of all, this process is lengthy. It can take, even if it's quite cheap, it can take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of roles inside. Because technically you have to have PM, designer, researcher, business stakeholders inside of that, and they are throwing the brick. Okay, like let's have a meeting and discuss this problem that we have. Let's go talk to the analyst and grab the data from him or her and throwing the brick. It just takes time. There's a lot of communication links, and AI doesn't help with that. AI shortens the whole loop, but it doesn't necessarily shorten the whole cycle because there are people inside. So it's lengthy in nature. And fourth, and I believe this is the biggest opportunity, you're not in this process. You're not involved. Most of the companies that deal with discovery are not using engineers. And you guys are handsome, pretty, smart, talented people who live in the midst of what is possible, what's bullshit, what users actually want, how users deal with the product. And in most cases, you care about what happens with the products that you're building. So it's very wasteful that you're not part of this. So this process needs to evolve in the AI area. When the building is cheap, deciding what's worth building becomes expensive. And expensive means good. It means people want to pay for that. So there's good news. Like right now, you can fix all of these problems and be involved in the whole thing. And you may be asking yourself, what? Me? Yes. And it's never been easier and more relevant for you. We see across the industry, so it's not like a thing that we just came up with in the AI bubble. We see a new role emerging from this. And this is actually an expansion of the role you may have been familiar with called product engineer. And it's been an interesting journey to see this. So it's an evolution from an engineer who is dealing with code architecture, system design, etc., through product engineer, so you pesky people asking the challenging questions to your PM, your designer, why do we do this, why do we do that, what happened? That's a good thing, actually. So familiarity with data analytics, basic UX principles, you become a discussion partner. You're still an engineer, but you're asking the different questions, more questions, through what we like to call as product builder. So a person who can technically solo, but we find it that in most cases, small teams operate on the whole cycle, do the whole thing by themselves. The design, the prototyping, the customer interviews, solo or with small teams. Even if by soul you're an engineer, it's just like an expansion of you, and market pays very well for that type of people. So as I said, this is a evolution in here. I'm not saying just be PM, not saying just be designer, be an engineer, but that has multiple skills inside. So let's look at a couple of these roles and see what skills do you actually need, starting with an engineer. So typically, engineer get a ticket, write a code, ship it, deals with deployments, stuff. So that's how we operated. Most of us operated for entirety of our career. That was my entirety of my career back then when I was just full-time coding. So the skills that are needed and still will be needed in this AI area are architecture, debugging, code review, system design, and more. These are still relevant. Then we have the product engineer. So that person, still an engineer, different questions. So you still need these skills, but a couple of more. You may want to dig into, okay, is the product that we're actually launching working? Where can we check that? What metrics do we need to move? Product metrics. UX awareness. So maybe have an opinion about the design and have some sort of, okay, I'll figure this out without the designer and I will show him or her what I've done. Full stack development. So we are starting to get ourselves from the specialization we're in. And right now with AI, it's getting easier to understand backend if you're a front-end engineer, understand front-end if you're a backend engineer, understand DevOps without waiting for this weird guy from the basement that is running your Kubernetes cluster. Yeah. Product mindset. So asking the questions. That's an important bit. And then we have the product builder. So that's an autonomous person who operates on the entire life cycle of the product. And you own everything from problem to shipped solution. You can be treated as mini startups within your company. And this model isn't a model for single startup founders. It's something that works with big companies across the world. And the market really pays well for that. So you still need all of those skills and a couple of more. Prototyping, user research, how to talk to your users and what to do with that interview, business context, prioritization, etc., etc. But so there's a lot of skills. You may be asking yourself, oh, it's quite a bit. But I don't want you to change careers. I want you to somewhat evolve and expand because I believe this is one of the paths that engineers will take. Not the only path, but one of the paths. And if you think this is difficult, I can assure you, in Poland, and I've been recruiting quite a bit of people, even I see some familiar faces from this hall. It is possible, and there are people in Poland who are doing that, not to mention the rest of the Europe. And with AI, it's really not that hard, and I will give you some tips how to start if you're familiar with that. So to sum up, the product builder is someone who has a core specialization. In your case, it can be an engineer, but it can be a designer, a product manager. But I believe engineers are very well equipped as a product builders because you understand the technical concept. This is something that is, I believe, is one of the most difficult areas to replicate as a designer or as a product manager. And then using AI, you just add some specialization. I don't know how to design. Okay, I will use Figma and MCP and use CloudCode to design it for me. I will use Pencil. I will use Paper as in this tool that designs for you, and they're doing fantastic designs. Fantastic. So you don't need to wait for a designer anymore. Product management. I can use LLMs. I can use Google tools to handle the customer interviews, bunch of stuff. Marketing, same. So the only thing that you need is understand what success looks like, what the good process looks like, and understand how to use AI to leverage that. And there's one important bit here that I'm mentioning, and that's agency, your mindset. So right now, we may have been thought to be, okay, that's my job. Don't do this his job or her job. Don't do her job. And right now, I say it's attractive to do everyone else's job, and it's quite easy to do it. And I'm not like I can do all of that stuff, and I'm not super talented in it at all. So it's like cyberpunk. First of all, you pick your path. Most of you are engineers, so I would say street kids, yeah? And then you add arguments to yourself. So you already have, is this working? You already have the engineering ones. Maybe you need to add a couple of more here. You need to add your product stuff, your design stuff, and you're adding it as you need it. You don't need to plan your whole career. You just need to stop thinking that waiting for someone else is good, because it's not. And you may be asking yourself, why should I care? Like, someone else will do it eventually. In our companies, we don't deal stuff like that. And there are a couple of reasons why you should care. First of all, I've been recruiting, I don't know, hundreds of people right now, and the single most important reason why people quit their jobs is because they build something they don't believe in. So that's an opportunity for you to actually have a saying, be at the table, figure out what gets built and what doesn't. And it's important. It's an important part of internal motivation of why do we do things? What do we want to leave at this world? And that's important. Like I don't feel motivated if I build shit that I don't want to do. So get a saying, be at the table. Second is you get autonomy. You don't need to wait for anyone. You can just say, okay, this isn't done. I will do it. Third, it's just attractive on the market. You will be different than most of engineers. And if you're aiming to go for big tech companies, that's something that you need to have anyway. And the market pays very well for these types of people who can code and prototype, code and understand business context, build and figure out how to market this solution. And the market is already shifting. So there's this interesting head-shaped gentleman. He's head of A16Z, and he says the future belongs to generalists in the AI area. So he mentions founders, but it's applicable to engineers as well. And we start seeing it in a lot of big companies. Figma says that job titles are merging thanks to AI, and people will become builders. There are companies like LinkedIn who actually are removing the software engineer title, and they have builders, and they teach people how to become builders, and they use AI for it. Linear, 1 PM for 1.2 billion company. They have 1 PM. Guess who does the PM stuff? Engineers. Vercel, slightly different version, yeah, design engineering. So that's the like merge of what's already being going. And if you're recruiting for big companies, Netflix, Google's, Meta's, etc., most of the stuff from the skills that I showed you are something that you will need anyway. But if you're thinking, but we're not linear, we're not Figma, our company may not want to do it, but that may be true, but you will change the company, and the next company may want. And ask yourself this: would you rather hire someone who just codes, or someone who finds the problem, builds it, and ship it, and can operate on this? And I would hire the latter one. So what can you start doing on Monday? 3 tips that I believe each and every one of you can start doing. First, and that one is the most difficult probably because you're not aware how to do it. Talk to one user this week, or at least grab some transcripts from the interviews that your company may or may have not been conducting, or tell someone, just let's go talk to the users and then figure out what is worth building. That's a question you can ask. What's the hardest part of working with our product? And it can be a 15-minute interview, and you will learn shit ton a lot. Second, the next ticket you get, ask, why are we building this? What data tells us that this is worth building? How will we measure our success? And make this an important bit of your retrospectives, sprint plannings, etc., etc. That one is important. If we're building something and no one is using it, we have failed. And it's okay to say we have failed, but you need to acknowledge that. Third, pick one adjacent skill. Like if you're handing over something to someone, ask yourself, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can learn what is stopping me from being blocked right now. And leverage AI, just build an agent, build a personal assistant in LLM to walk you through what could be a single step that you can move forward with this. So no, you're not being replaced as an engineer, you're being supercharged. You get the turbo button here. So my final things are, the future doesn't belong to people who ship faster. It belongs to people who know what's worth shipping. And if you want to learn more on how to become a product builder, we're doing a specific course on how to build product. And 30% of the first cohort were engineers, and they were quite happy with what they saw. So I think quite a bit of people are interested in that. We have actually more people than 500, but there was a very cool Heroes of Might and Magic asset I wanted to use. And if you want to learn more about the product builders, that's our newsletter with Wojtek Strzałkowski. So you can read an article on that. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
All right.
I don't know if
you. Let's take a seat there. Feel free to grab your stuff. We're gonna be installing our next speaker here. While we talk, welcome.
Grab my stuff.
All right. So, the audience, they have questions.
Happy to answer.
Yeah, help yourself to some water if you need it. And while we're here, thanks for the presentation and for all of the context. Like, I like that the presentation is not just the the ideas, but it's also background. So these people did that and so on. And I think the question that I want to start with is coming from the audience. You mentioned that the product builder isn't meant for solo founders. Is that the correct understanding of what you said, first of all?
The product builder is meant for solo founders as well as for people in teams in smaller, medium, big organizations. So that's the role that fits most of the organizations, including I want to be a solo technical founder.
Yeah, and I think the best part of this question is more around an engineer who becomes the product builder. Is that the path to a solo founder, actually?
Absolutely. That's one of the best paths. And as a engineer who became a founder and took this job myself, the learning curve, so the journey is worth taking, and acquiring those specific skills that I've mentioned is definitely a fantastic path. Most of the engineers who were participating in our course were actually either founders or aiming to be founders at some time. Somewhere, we just need that type of person inside of our team where I want to change my career.
Yeah, it reminds me how in Silicon Valley, everyone working full-time is actually a founder to be, right?
Yes.
That might actually happen, and then what? Anyway, since the AI coding boom, this requires air quotes because we don't know what that means yet. Have you noticed people saying more often that the product organization, the designers, the product managers can't keep up with the engineering pace?
I like to think of product organization as product managers, designers, and engineers, actually. So for me, these are the three necessary roles to build products. So I don't want to keep them separate.
But organizations tend to silo them often. And have you heard of cases where engineering ends up requesting more work because there's not enough product backlog ready?
But what happens is they just throw a bunch of random ideas.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun.
Right?
All right. I have one more question that's going to have to go to the follow-up Q&A downstairs. So remember that we're going to have a follow-up Q&A in the early afternoon. And it's a very good question. Oh, okay, I'll squeeze it in. So if someone doesn't have big engineering background yet, but they do want to go towards a solo founder, is that the path that they still need to take? Do they need to build their engineering background first, or is there a shortcut?
I think you don't need to be like full-scale engineer as we were back in the day. There are multiple shortcuts, multiple tools that you can connect right now, so it alleviates some of the necessities. But I believe coding founders or having a technical founder is something worth having, because the technical skills are something that will be very much important bit in the years to come. So I would say it's still worthwhile to tune your engineering craft even with AI, even with if right now vibe coding gets so much weird attention, but it's not vibe coding is in engineering, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for this chat. There's more chat to come. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.